This is the Darwin 129 7-inch long-range FPV drone. As usual, this is a quick walkthrough as of how to bind it to your radio, but this time it's a bit different as this particular 129 is coming with a Crossfire receiver. So we will need to replace the Crossfire receiver to an ELRS receiver first. Then we can go talk about how to bind. So let's go. Okay, so we are going to first start by removing the top plate, tapes and whatsoever, so we can reveal the flight controller so we get to desolder and install the ELRS receiver. As this is a very tedious step, I'm just going to do it like that. Now the components has been removed and our flight controller has been revealed, and we can see that the receiver is going to be right here, which we're going to have to remove it later. And we are going to desolder it with these solder pads. Okay, next we're going to take out the ELRS receiver, and we are just going to start by soldering the cables onto the receiver itself. Okay, you're going to have to make 4 connections. So one is ground, 5 volts, TX and RX. So the TX and RX on the receiver is going to have to be reverted onto the FC. So on your receiver, the RX goes to TX and the TX goes to RX. Next, we are going to connect the wires. Let's start by the ground. Okay. 5 volts. TX. And then it's RX. Okay, we are done. Next, let's look at the flight controller board so we can know which paths we're going to solder the receiver towards to. So you can see that there is a 5 volt and there's a ground. So this one is a 5 volt and this one is a ground. So we are going to solder the red one here and the black one over here. And TX, RX is right here, RX3 and TX3. So on our receiver, the TX is going to be the white line, which it has to go to the RX. So it's going to be this pad, and the yellow one is our RX on the receiver, and it goes to the TX, so it goes to this one. All right, let's begin. We're going to first start by getting the ground cable. These are just tiniest solder pads on such a big board. Next is the 5 volt. Okay. Next is our TX on the flight pad and supposed to go to the RX pad. RX on the receiver that goes to the TX. Alright, so the soldering part, heavy lifting is done. All we now have to do is add on the antenna. Okay, so we're going to put the antenna, just going to be right here. And then I'm just going to hook it up right here. I'll leave pause. Alright, so we have successfully updated the receiver from Crossfire to ELRS, and now we can bind this to our radio. Okay, let's take out our radio, and my radio is currently already at ELRS 3.x and the binding phrase is at 654321. So what we have to do is just to make sure the receiver is having the same thing in order for them to bind. By looking at the package, I can see that the firmware version is already at 3.3, so all we have to do is set up the binding phrase also at 654321, and they should automatically bind together. So we're going to set up the binding phrase by using Wi-Fi method. Alright, let's go to the computer. Okay, so we're just going to plug in the drone using a USB cable, and it should power up the ELRS receiver already. So what you have to do is wait for 30 seconds until it begins a rapid flash, and we can start connecting it using Wi-Fi. Okay, we're gonna go to our Wi-Fi, and let's just wait for it to appear with the ELRS RX sign. You're gonna click it, you're gonna hit connect. If you're asked for any password, the password is going to be ELRS, all lowercase. And then a separate screen is going to pop out, and we are just going to set a binding phrase right here. And you can see that the default is 654321. This is my binding phrase. Set up whatever you would like as long as it matches your RTX. And simply, you're just going to hit save and reboot. All right, so our binding phrase should have been set up, and all now we have to do is plug it into Betaflight and see if it actually works. Okay, we're going to bring out our radio, and the wonderful thing about binding phrase is that as long as your binding phrase and the TX-RS match together, they're just going to bind whenever you power both on. So let's connect it and give it a try. So we're going to go to the receiver tab, and you can see that, hey, we actually got it bounded. We don't even have to change anything because I am using the same UART as the original Crossfire receiver. It's UR3, so it's already enabled, so I don't have to do anything. And go to the receiver, and basically the receiver is also set as Crossfire because ELRS is also running on Crossfire as well. So I don't have to touch anything, and yeah, you can see that everything is working. And now we have to just go to the modes tab to make sure our setup is correct. So we're going to set up an arm switch. Arm switch is this one. Okay, so this arms modes. So this goes to angle. Okay, so angle, I want it to be here. Angle at the bottom. Okay, angle, horizon, and air. Okay, hit save. All right, let's come back to the bench. I don't see there's a reason why it won't work, but we're just gonna test it. I'm just gonna plug in the LiPo. And we're just gonna test to see if the motor spins when we actually flip the arm switch. So let's flip it. All right, so everything's working. All right, so this is how simple it is to replace a Crossfire receiver to ELRS, and also how to bind your ELRS receiver. And we're done talking. Let's just go fly this.